Ondergronds met de DJ's van het illegale Londense radiostation Root FM. In de pilot van The Outsiders, Making Waves.
Pirates have been hijacking the airways for over 30 years. In that time, the technology has changed from AM to FM, and the pirates have moved from ships to tower blocks. As new techniques are developed for broadcasting signals, an ongoing battle has emerged between the pirates and those responsible for policing the airwaves.
They change their technologies, we change our technologies. They hide them, we find them, whatever.
The DTI have got this new tool for getting our rigs out now. So like, at this stage they're one stage ahead of us, you know what I mean?
The technology that the pirates do use has got better.
Pirate radio tends to pick the best ideas from existing broadcast technologies and add ideas of their own because of the very special circumstances that pirates operate in.
Sounds of the 8th, Root FM Tuesday night, 10 out of 11. Our total crew's locked in, locked on. We're Shaggan to Rob. All the two-hand productions, massive. That's coming from the loop inside the place.
Today, more than 180 pirate radio stations are operating across the UK, upholding a tradition that started in the rough waters of the North Sea with Radio Caroline.
This is Radio Caroline on 199 metres, your all-day music station, Britain's first commercial radio station.
Caroline was the first pirate to challenge the authorities and went on to shape the future of broadcasting for generations to come.
When I think of Radio Caroline, I think the first time that I joined it in July 25th, 1964, I remember going out on the tender boat. We used to go out on a boat from Frinton, those of us who were on Caroline South, and I remember seeing this little boat bobbing up and down on the North Sea, and thinking to myself, that is absolutely wonderful. It's such a small little boat, and it was very minute, really, but it's causing so much problems for the government. And I thought, how wonderful.
The government may pronounce soon on the future of radio in Britain. Mr. Wedgwood Benn, the Postmaster General, has already pronounced on the pirates.
They're stealing the copyright and paying no money for it. They're playing records that musicians have recorded and giving them no money for it. They're endangering the ship-to-shore radio, and there's a real risk that distress at sea might not be reported because of the inadequate fumbling handling of equipment.
The transmitter was 50 kilowatts on the AM band, and the reason it was on the AM band is that AM signals can travel a lot further than FM signals. FM signals are really limited to line of sight. As far as you can shine your torch, that's where your signal goes.
There was a lot of RF frequency flying around there as well, and a scare thing went by the fact we'd all been made impotent because of this RF frequency that was flying around. And in actual fact, on Radio London, when we once went up to 50 kilowatts, I think it was, and the whole mast lit up. And it was incredible. It was like a Christmas tree. But you could actually get a fluorescent tube, hold it up, and it would light up itself whilst holding it in your hand.
After more than 2 decades of successful broadcasting, the Marine Offences Act brought the offshore pirates to their knees, and the stations were finally closed down.
It's not really the thing to do anymore, to transmit non-stereo AM from a ship offshore. You don't get very good coverage, the quality isn't very good. And I think that's why now, if there are no offshore pirates, it's not a very viable thing to do. As I said, it's not nice sitting out in the North Sea in the middle of winter. That's why the pirates have come on land. The music is more specialist based that they play. It's not the mainstream sort of stuff that perhaps Radio Caroline used to play. And the technology, as I described, has moved on as well.
It's basically the same as music has gone. It's a parallel, you know, so a band now doesn't have to go into a recording studio, 48 track, and they don't have to be able to play the guitar, the drums and everything else. They can just put it all into the computer, and you can do it all in your bedroom. And that's a bit like kind of radio.
In the 80s, a whole spectrum of new pirates was born, transmitting from the rooftops of London's tower blocks. These onshore pirates were able to set up studios in their bedrooms.
We actually hatched this idea on my bed, in fact, in my old house. We sat around, had this idea for Kiss FM. Of course, it's quite well known now, but at the time it was a nebulous idea to put a radio station that would actually do mixing on on the air, live on the air, which was a very new thing at the time, and it just seemed like an exciting idea.
With FM technology now freely accessible, the airwaves were opened up to a new generation of DIY pirates.
You need a fairly simple transmitter and a high site to put it on. Most pirates go for council tower blocks because they're tall, they're relatively unsupervised, and they invariably are in parts of London that are densely populated, which is exactly the audience that the pirates need to find. So in terms of equipment costs, you're talking about perhaps £1,000 to £1,500 for a good setup to start from scratch to build a pirate radio station.
Each time we had to set up a pirate transmitter, it entailed taking several boxes to the top of a very tall building somewhere, such as these. This is a high power amplifier which boosts the transmitter signal, and this is a receiver which enables you to send the signal from the studio undetected to the transmitter site. But really this was all you needed to set up a radio station. It's a lot less than most people would probably expect. This did the job.
London's perfectly formed for pirate radio, or radio full stop, because it's a valley. So if you're transmitting off of sort of Swiss Cottage or around there, or Alexandra Palace or Crystal Palace and sort of Blackheath, then you're at the top of the valley, so you just cover everything. So it's wonderful.
It wasn't long before the Department of Trade and Industry were hot on the pirates' trail, confiscating rigs and raiding studios all over the country.
In some weeks we would maybe get raided 3 or 4 times, and each time I would have to build a complete new transmitter and install it. I wasn't getting much sleep in those days.
The problem with being a land-based pirate is that it's very easy for the authorities to track down your transmitter, and they quite frequently will do that and confiscate the equipment.
What commenced was a sort of Cold War between pirate operators and the Department of Trade and Industry Radio Investigation Department, which did worry me because I'm not a lawbreaker, but I consider myself a bit of a renegade and a bit of a flag waver for the music and champion of the music for the people, so to speak. So that kept me going.
As the DTI grew ever more sophisticated in tracking illegal signals, the pirates responded by embracing new technologies that would tip the balance back in their favour.
The microwave links were one of the big innovations in pirate radio in the early 80s, when pirates began to discover that microwaves couldn't be detected by the authorities with their current equipment.
The main aim was to avoid actually getting caught at the studio. So we would have an intricate system of multiple radio links that join up the studio and the transmitter, in some cases using modified satellite television equipment, dishes, microwave equipment, that was very, very difficult for the authorities to detect, and feed the signal via this method to the transmitter site, which had merely a very cheap, dispensable piece of equipment that would not lead them back to us at the studio.
We would go for 2 years without being discovered, and it was normally a lack of studio security that gave us up, rather than the technology.
Right, we've got a microwave receiver here. It's a low noise block, as it's called, and they're very line of sight, these things. They'll only point in straight lines, so this really gives us a clue as to where the studio is, and it would be directly along this line. In this particular case, it's probably coming from the block of flats over there in the distance. Typically, we could receive it could be receiving a signal up to 3 miles, even as much as that.
It makes it more difficult because a microwave signal goes in a very thin beam, if you like, and it makes it a little more difficult to track down. And if you have a studio which is in, say, a derelict flat in a block of flats, it may be a little more difficult. But the fact is we do have success and we do track them down.
As the Cold War continues into the 90s, the DTI is constantly developing new technology to keep the FM dial pirate-free.
All the clever stuff's in here. There are a series of aerials mounted into the roof, which are phased, and the information from there runs down to a box in the back, and that sort of does the clever bit with the electronics and gives us the reading up here. I'm receiving it on the receiver down here, and it's displaying and it's showing me that the station is coming from almost directly ahead of us at the moment. As you can see, it's flickering slightly because we're a fair way away from it, and we'll have to go and find it. So let's go and see if we can find it. There's always that hint of the unexpected. You know, you're never quite sure what's going to happen, you're never quite sure where it's going to be, you never quite know what new technologies you're going to come up against, and it's terrific to succeed.